I believe that Senator McConnell knew about CBD with the 2018 Farm Bill. It is the intoxicating cannabinoids that nobody saw coming. And we all said that hemp was not about getting high. And in 2025, here we are, and hemp is very much about getting high these days.
Houston, we have a problem. People think that hemp is weed. It's not weed. It's hemp. Anyway, that's Erica Stark from the National Hemp Association. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Hello, my name is Eric Herlock. Welcome to the Hemp Show. Today we're going to talk to Erica Stark about what a possible legislative fix to the industry might look like. She offers a scenario that is sort of grounded in common sense. So we're going to talk to Erica about that and shine some light on her ideas. Also, we're going to talk to Steve Groff, regenerative hemp farmer from here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, who will be giving a presentation next week in Raleigh at the Global Fiber Hemp Summit. All right, we've got a lot happening on today's show. I'll tell you more about it right after these messages. This episode is brought to you in part by I&D Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. I&D Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven industrial hemp food, feed, and fiber company that's providing new opportunities for American farmers. Learn more at indhemp.com. This episode is also made possible with support from Forever Green, distributors of the KP4 hemp cutter, introducing a revolution in hemp harvesting. Setting a new standard for harvesting quality, speed, and efficiency, the KP4 prepares hemp for ideal retting and easy on-field tedding, raking, and baling. It's easy to maintain and designed to withstand the punishments of hemp harvesting. The KP4 hemp cutter, available only at hempcutter.com. The show is also brought to you with support from the National Hemp Association. If you're in the fiber and grain hemp space, you should know about the National Hemp Association. Industrial hemp is rooted in farms and built for industry, and NHA is working to build supply chains, support rural development, and push for the policy changes that fiber and grain producers need. Learn more and get involved at nationalhempassociation.org. Okay, welcome back. So we got a couple of news nuggets here for you this second week of July 2025. This first one comes to us from the Times of Central Asia. It says that Kazakhstan is preparing to manufacture passport paper using domestically grown industrial hemp. A new law legalizes non-narcotic hemp with a strict 0.3% THC limit. A production facility is planned in the North Kazakhstan region, with exports of high-security paper already in the works. So while some countries are building up the industrial side of hemp, others are busy tightening the screws on THC. Case in point, this next story from Arizona. The Phoenix New-Times says that a Maricopa County judge has sided with Attorney General Chris Mays, allowing Arizona to crack down on hemp-derived THC products like Delta-8 gummies and drinks. The court ruled these products can be regulated under state narcotics laws, even if the THC comes from hemp. The Hemp Industry Trade Association plans to appeal while Congress considers a broader federal ban. Here's a story from North Carolina. I'm headed there next week, by the way. So this story is from North Carolina Health News. It's about Governor Josh Stein's new State Advisory Council on Cannabis, which has been tasked with taming the state's unregulated hemp market. Lawmakers are debating bills to ban THC in schools, restrict sales to adults 21 and over, and require retail licenses. The council will deliver final recommendations by December 2026. So we've got a little bit of time yet. Here's a press release from PR Newswire about Canadian company Blue Sky Hemp Ventures. The story says that they've sold their hemp food division to Fresh Hemp Foods. They're the folks behind Manitoba Harvest. Blue Sky is shifting focus to cannabis extracts and contract manufacturing, including vapes and topicals. CEO Andrew Potter says the move frees up capital and space to grow their cannabinoid business and pursue EU GMP certification for international markets. So in other words, even companies that championed whole plant hemp are now betting big on cannabinoids because that's where the market is. All right, and finally, a little perspective from letstalkhemp.com, trying to reframe the conversation a bit. In a recent op-ed, Mars Beagle argues that the real issue isn't hemp itself, it's how we regulate it. He calls for bifurcation, one path for industrial hemp grown for fiber and grain, and another for cannabinoid-rich products like CBD and Delta-8. Without that clarity, he says, prohibition-style crackdowns risk hurting the wrong people, especially farmers who have nothing to do with intoxicating products. Yeah, and that seems like the perfect segue into my conversation with Erica Stark from the National Hemp Association. Here we go. Across the country, state lawmakers are cracking down on intoxicating hemp-derived products like Delta-8 and THC-infused drinks. But in the rush to close loopholes, farmers growing industrial hemp, meaning hemp for fiber, grain, and seed, are getting caught in the crossfire. According to the USDA, the total value of the U.S. hemp industry in 2024 was about $445 million, but more than $400 million of that came from cannabinoid-rich floral hemp. The industrial side, fiber, grain, and seed, accounted for just $41 million. It's a small share of the market, but it represents a legitimate agricultural sector with entirely different practices, supply chains, and goals. The problem is federal law doesn't distinguish between industrial and cannabinoid hemp, and without that clarity, new laws aimed at THC products are threatening traditional farmers who have nothing to do with intoxicating compounds. Erica Stark, executive director of the National Hemp Association, is working to fix that by pushing for a formal federal definition of industrial hemp in the next Farm Bill. Erica Stark, welcome back to the Hemp Show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So let's start with what you're proposing. What would a legal definition of industrial hemp actually do, and why is it important now?
I don't have the exact language in front of me, but we do see similar language in both this House and Senate draft versions of the Farm Bill, as well as appropriations, which is actually the bill that is likely going to pass and move first. That will give us this legal definition. But basically, it will define industrial hemp as hemp that is purpose grown only for grain, fiber, or microgreens. And it also has a clause in there too for plants that are never meant to enter the commerce stream at all. And the idea behind that is to allow research institutes to have easier access to all varietals of hemp for testing. But for all practical purposes for commerce, it's going to be no extractions of any cannabinoids of any kind, just fiber, just grain, as it always was meant to be.
Okay. And this concept already exists in the USDA policy, but why is it necessary to move it into federal law?
Well, the definition of hemp, of industrial hemp, is not currently in USDA policy. Now, there are some instances where they have some flexibility with performance-based sampling if it's industrial hemp in that way, but we don't have a true definition. So it's important to codify that. And especially as, you know, in your opening, you talked a lot about the state laws. And we're still seeing states that use the term industrial hemp because it was called industrial hemp in the 2014 Farm Bill. And a lot of states had passed legislation based on that initial 2014 Farm Bill that just sort of evolved with the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, which dropped the term industrial from hemp. And that adds, part of the confusion is not having clear terminology that is applicable across federal and state policies.
All right. And so between 2014 and 2018, is that where we saw the cannabinoid sort of sector grow a lot? Because I think about Mitch McConnell and hearing him talk about
industrial
hemp in 2018. It sounded like he really wanted to get into fiber and grain. And I wonder if he was caught off guard by CBD.
The cannabinoid industry absolutely blossomed after the passage of the 2014 Farm Bill. That's what allowed it. And some of the provisions in that, even though technically the 2014 Farm Bill was only to allow research, the fact that marketing information and sales data was technically allowed to be used as research is what really allowed the industry to boom. So I would say that I believe that Senator McConnell knew about CBD with the 2018 Farm Bill. It is the intoxicating cannabinoids that nobody saw coming. And we all said that hemp was not about getting high. And in 2025, here we are, and hemp is very much about getting high these days.
Right. And that was the whole message for years and years and years, that hemp was this, you know, juxtaposed to marijuana. It's like slightly more wholesome, right? And I feel like there's this sort of middle spot in the overall cannabis space that wanted to hijack that goodness of hemp, that wholesomeness, and use it for nefarious purposes. I don't know. But now we have to defend what the word has meant for 1,000 years.
Yeah, agreed. Me personally, I don't go so far as to say it's nefarious. It definitely has not helped the industrial side of the industry. It definitely has not necessarily done good things for consumers who don't have clarity of what they're purchasing. That's a whole debate in and of itself. But for our intents and purposes, like, yes, it was definitely challenges that we did not see coming on top of challenges that we already had in overcoming stigma and encouraging investment into fiber and grain and getting that education out there. And frankly, it is a tough conversation to have with legislators that you told hemp was not about getting high, even though I, at least from my perspective, know I was definitely sincere back then. That was what I believed. I had no idea that this was coming. So it is what it is. And we're here now, and we have an opportunity to fix it and make things clear for the government, for the governmental agencies, for investors, for consumers, and farmers alike.
Well, let me stop you right there. So let's hope the investors and the policymakers and all those people are listening. Like, just make it crystal clear for them what the issue is. So for farmers growing hemp for fiber, grain, or seed, what kinds of problems are they running into because of this definition that isn't in place yet?
Well, they're going through unnecessary, burdensome, and often expensive mandatory testing protocols. They're, going through fingerprinting and background checks. But I think the biggest hindrance to farmer from a pure definitional standpoint is that there's no markets there yet, right? We're not able to scale and get hemp to be as common as soy and corn and other traditional row crops, which is the types of farmers that we're talking about when we're talking about industrial hemp.
Right.
So,
that's the goal. Big, boring, ubiquitous, right?
Exactly.
And cannabinoid stuff, however great it is, because it's absolutely wonderful medicine, good medicine. The industry has a right to exist, etc. But all of that is keeping the fiber and grain side of things, which has vast economic, environmental benefits and potential. It's keeping that from flourishing. And that,
Exactly.
I think, is the main issue.
It's absolutely the main issue. It all stems back to that. And it's because of confusion and an inability to regulate things properly. Because if we're going to be completely honest, right? A cannabinoid is a cannabinoid regardless of what plant material you get it from. So THC is THC, whether it comes from, quote, hemp, or whether it comes from, quote, marijuana. It's the same thing. A molecule is a molecule. It doesn't matter where it comes from. So the idea that some components or compounds are legal strictly based on which plant they came from is just utter nonsense. It just doesn't pass any logic at all.
Right. Like if THC in hemp is legal under 0.3%, that's still legal THC. And it's confusing.
Yeah, and that's where they get, they make the
Right.
gummies that weigh a certain amount.
Right.
So on a dry weight basis, it all kind of comes out in the wash. And that's the kind of thing that just does not make sense. So that's part of the really big reason. We've been working on this bifurcation and new definition of industrial hemp for 3 years now.
Years and years, which in hemp years is like, I don't know, 47 years.
Feels like 5 lifetimes for sure. But we're there. We're going to get a definition. That I am certain of. Like I said, we're seeing it in appropriations. We're seeing it in both drafts of the Farm Bill. Now, are there other things that we're going to get to that maybe we all don't like, regardless of what side you're on? That's a different question. But we will get our definition.
Good. All right. So one more question about this. Are there any unintended consequences or sort of complexities that you're sort of keeping an eye on here? Because that's what the loophole before was, like an unintended consequence led to like intoxicating hemp. Is there anything here that you can, I mean, hopefully not, but I guess you never know.
Well, there is. When I look at them, the big thing that's going to have an impact on most people, specifically and more so on the cannabinoid side, is the changing the definition to be total THC. And the reason that it's problematic is, number one, what does total THC mean? Like, you look at an average COA, it will give you total THC that is a calculation of THCA converted to D9 plus D9. And that makes sense, but that's not total THC, right? Because they're looking to close the loophole for things like D8 and other compounds. So that definition of total THC doesn't jive with what they're actually trying to do. And if they are going to make it actual total THC, then that's not fair. They're actually, in essence, lowering the threshold from 0.3% to something a bit lower than that. Now, on the industrial side, we're also seeing with the states, like them putting regulations on, quote, ingestible products. And if they're not careful and specifically exclude industrial hemp from those definitions, well, hemp grain is ingestible. So the devil is always in the detail with language. In the drafts we're seeing in appropriations in the Farm Bill, they do exclude industrial hemp from their definitions of hemp-derived cannabinoid product, which is good. But I do think that there's some simple ways that they really could be just a little bit clearer in their definitions. And honestly, there's no reason to change the definition of the plant material, because that's not where the problem is. Like, if they just did a simple thing, like kept it Delta 9 as tested post decarboxylation or other similarly reliable method, which is the regulation that they're operating under now, would close the THCA flower loophole. But other than that, it's not the flowers that are the problem. It's the products that are being made from the flowers and the derivatives of those flowers that they're actually seeking to ban.
Right. It's so complicated.
It is.
Well, thank you for, explaining this to us as
or
best you can.
Or making it more complicated, I guess. So sorry if I did that. I didn't mean to.
Well, luckily there's ample opportunity to further this discussion in Raleigh next week. And you're going to be down there at the Fiber Summit?
I will be there, yes.
All right. So if people maybe hear this, they could be like, hey, Erica, let's talk about this.
Absolutely happy to talk to anyone.
Good. Is there anything in particular you are looking forward to getting into down there?
I'm actually looking forward to learning more about the textile space. It's not something that I consider myself really all that well versed about, but it's a super important segment of the industry I'm excited to learn more about. And just seeing everybody. I missed out on the big conference last year for some personal reasons. So I'm just looking forward to seeing anybody and talking about some important initiatives that are coming up.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you down there in North Carolina next week.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank
Erica.
you.
All right. So there you go. Erica Stark from the National Hemp Association, which is a proud sponsor of our show. So thank you to the NHA for your support. All right. So while there is a lot of focus on North Carolina coming up for the summit, you may have noticed that I'm keeping things kind of local here, keeping the spotlight on Pennsylvania a bit. So now we're going to talk to Steve Groff. He is Lancaster County's favorite regenerative hemp farmer, possibly the only regenerative hemp farmer growing 60 acres of fiber. Anyway, let's go talk to Steve. All right, Steve Groff, welcome back to the Hemp Show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric. I guess this is our summer edition because it's summer now.
Yeah. I realized that I think maybe it's good luck for me to check in with you like right before a big hemp event, because I think the last time we spoke, it was before NOCO. I don't think either of us went to NOCO this year. And I think before that, maybe we were talking about the Montana Hemp Summit last year, but now we're getting ready for this Raleigh Summit. coming up next week in North Carolina, and I saw that you're going to be speaking there. So I wanted to check in with you and see what you have in store for the good people of North Carolina down at NC State. And then I thought we could sort of, hear an update of what's happening with some of your hemp projects there at the farm in Lancaster County. So first of all, how are you doing?
Well, we're, like I said, we're in the summertime now. Things are growing. We have 60 acres of hemp planted here. We've started dry, but ended up wet. But it's really been leaping the last couple weeks here. I mean, it's over 8 feet tall and growing. It seems like, I don't know, a couple inches a day.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's kind of cool to see. I was just driving out the driveway this morning. We have a field of hemp along here, and it's like I should stand on my four-wheeler and take a video just looking over the field, because it was just it's so awesome.
Yeah. I think last time we talked, you mentioned you were going to do a few different fiber varieties. I think you mentioned MS-77, Jurassic, things like that. Are you still doing those?
Actually, that's the only two we ended up doing. I thought I was going to get a few more with some companies, but the seeds never got here. So, primarily those two is what I'm looking at this year. And, they look awesome right now. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Okay. And can you compare and contrast the two, or they're both looking just good?
Too early to do that. I mean, Jurassic is a fast-growing fiber type, mainly, as I understand it. And, MS-77 is more well-known to people. It comes from Australia, Chinese genetics originally. But, it's the kind that we're looking for long fiber, because that's really what our focus is on.
Okay. When did you plant those?
They would have been planted the third week of April.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then when are you going to cut them?
Well, haven't seen any buds yet. So my answer to that, Eric, not to be snarky, but when the first buds appear. So I'm thinking in a month or so, which let's just translate that to August the 1st.
Okay.
We're going to be starting a little sooner than that. We're working on some innovative equipment here to do in-field green decortication. So we're doing some hand testing in that now, and we'll see how that goes. But that's what we're working on here right now this summer.
Okay. Yeah, I remember talking to you and Larry Serban out in Montana last year about that green decortication project. So I'm curious to sort of follow along on that.
Well, all I can say is it's moving forward, maybe 1 inch at a time. It's quite a project. It's not easy. I guess if it would be, everybody would be doing it. But we're working on it, and when we get it to be commercially viable, we'll let people know. But right now, it's pretty much just something we're working on here in the farm, and once we get it commercially viable, we'll be talking about it.
Okay. You mentioned harvesting when you see the buds first appear, so like almost nipping it in the bud, right? So I guess for growing for fiber, you want to cut it before the buds develop, because I guess the plant then changes, like the fiber changes sort of structure after that. So talk about that if you know about it.
There's an element of maturity in the fiber within the plant, and the textile folks like a younger plant. It makes a finer grade textile. And again, I'm no expert in that. I just go on what I'm hearing, what I'm learning from those who are into textile stuff. You also have other applications that we're actually involved with now that they want it fully mature. Like the plant is literally dying in the field, like October. Like it's dried in the field. And that's, again, all I can say, Eric, is we're just trying stuff. We're working with other companies. It seems like everybody's in the shape we are. Nobody has money. And we're just kind of trying to eke along until money comes. And then, we're kind of in the background now. That's how I personally feel anyway.
Yeah.
And once we, have capital investments here, it's like no matter what direction you go in hemp, it's going to take a couple $1 million to get commercially viable and to be, get the whole supply chain functioning. I just don't see any way around that. And until we get that, there are going to be, several different streams that are going to develop probably here. But, we're just working with the people who seem to be, I'm just going to say, legitimate in their efforts. And we're just going to see where it goes from there. But so to get back to your original question, the textile people like it young. Other people like it anywhere from that till fully mature.
So you mentioned something about long fibers there. And I know there's a lot of talk with textiles coming up, sort of reshoring the textile industry. There's a lot of talk about short fibers and cottonization. So I'm surprised to hear you talk about long fibers. What can you tell me about that?
Well, there is some market demand on a global scale, I'll say, for long fibers. That has been historically the case in a global perspective. There hasn't been maybe any demand in the domestic here in the U.S. for long fibers. I'm just thinking ahead and we're trying to develop, working with Hemp Catalyst, who you've had on before, trying to develop a market here because we do see some interest in long fibers here domestically. Because, when you have a long fiber, you can always shorten it. But when you have a short fiber, you can't ever lengthen it. So that's kind of our thought process. And with the equipment we're developing, it's based on long fiber because we can separate the herd easier that way. And I'll just leave it at that for now. But basically, I think there's going to be a demand for long fiber. And that's kind of what we're focusing on right now. But I've been in this business long enough that the journey has been like back and forth, and I don't know where we're going to end up. I've given up on that. I'm just like, where's the next? Where's the next stop?
You just like the journey.
The journey, but it's not like it's not focused at all. We're not just like doing crazy stuff that, there's a lot of thought and reason, and we are very focused in the long fiber part. Where it goes from there. We're, like I said, we're working with several different folks, companies, and we're just going to have to see what matures, what develops. And again, it comes back to money. And I hate to keep harping on it, but it is so consistent. Almost every single entity we're working with needs money.
And are you confident that the money's coming?
I guess I answered this way. You wouldn't be talking to me now if I wasn't confident, because I'd be checked out. I'm not checked out. I'm checked in. So I guess you could say the answer is yes, but I'm trying. We're trying. We're trying.
I love that. I love your confidence. I love to see the world through your eyes.
Right.
So that's great.
No, I see opportunity, Eric. I do. Again, you have the Farm Bill that's been lurking out there for 2 years now. I'm not waiting around for that. But hopefully, and again, this plays into why you can't get too focused, because that could change some things. It could change the direction a little bit.
Well, we've seen it turn on a dime a couple of times in the past few years.
Yeah, and I remember, this is kind of an interesting memory. In 2018, when we were kind of at this point, you might say, are we going to get it or aren't we? Is industrial hemp going to be legal? Is it not? And I remember I was in it enough up till then that I was kind of like, I'm just going to wait and see till the bill is signed. When it's signed, then it's time to get to work. And I kind of feel that way now, although I'm involved, but I'm not like totally focused yet, knowing that could change some things. But then again, I'm going to say I'm not going to wait around for that. We're doing stuff now. We'll see where it goes. So that could change our trajectory. It may not.
Yeah. Well, back then, the Farm Bill was, I think, it expired the end of September of 2018, and there's supposed to be a new one right there. So then there was a couple of months where, like, what was going to happen? And then it wasn't until December of 2018 that it was signed.
I think it was December 21st. Don't quote me on that, but you can check.
But we can check that.
It's close. It's within a day or two of December the 21st of 20.
And then it was game on for the Green Rush and the CBD, and everybody and his brother got in there. So good times. But getting back to the long fiber. So in Europe, there is a tradition of long fiber production, and it's not just hemp, but it's also flax. Yes. And lately on the show, I don't know if you know this, but July is Fiber Month here on the show. It's also Flax Month.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff happening around flax. I know you're kind of part of that.
Yep.
That groundswell, and that's exciting. Like that Pennsylvania has a lot going for it in the sort of the natural fiber space. I don't know. You want to talk about any flax related things? Because you were involved in like a harvester or a planter. A
planter that can plant hemp and flax, a precision planter that we can precisely plant hemp seeds and flax seeds on 4-inch wide rows. The typical grain drills here are 7.5 inch. There's a few 5.5 inch, but you go to Europe, you go to China, everything's 4 inches or 10 centimeters, but that's 4 inches wide. And there's nothing really in the market. So I applied for a grant, Pennsylvania Innovation Grant, was awarded that grant in early March. Still waiting for the signature,
Still waiting
Eric.
for the money, yeah.
Still waiting for the money. I mean, I'm just going to leave it at that. But the project has not started yet. Okay. So there it is. So I was hoping we could do something this year. Now it looks like we'll be working on it this winter.
Yeah. Well, good. You need a nice winter project.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, good. All right. Okay, so you're going to be speaking at the summit next week in Raleigh, and maybe folks who are listening to this now are headed there, right? So, yeah, what are you going to be talking about? Are you on a certain panel? Is it just the Steve Groff show for an hour? Are you going to tell jokes? What are you going to do?
I hope to inspire people. That's always my goal when I speak, to inspire creative thought, to inspire, some of the things I'm working on, to inspire further networking with people, to put our heads together. But I'm going to be focusing on growing hemp in the context of regenerative agriculture principles. So that's what I've been doing. And by the way, that's not something you just, get a prescription for and do it and it's done. That's also a journey. And, I'm known to be pushing the limits sometimes, and just going to share what I've learned and awesome. Where I see, the things that I see to test next year. And also as an effort to I'm hoping, I know there's going to be a few farmers there that, we're able to network and talk in the hallways and say, hey, here's an idea, and I'm there to learn as well. So, but my presentation is basically growing hemp regeneratively, and the core things is no-till and the use of cover crops. That's the two big core things. And there's some auxiliary type stuff, but that's the main thing. How do you do that? How do you plant a small seed like hemp, no-till, into a cover crop? That's a big challenge, and not everybody has the equipment to do it. But I've been no-tilling for a long time, over 40 years now, and so I do know a thing or two. But I feel like this year I have the best stand of hemp I've ever had on the 60 acres. It looks pretty nice. Weather has been favorable. That always helps. But I still have some other ideas that I'm testing. I still feel like I need to refine things a little bit more, particularly in the effort to maybe help other farmers, because that's historically what I've been. I've been very much in the cover crop world, helping farmers, educating in this.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So this is why this planter is important, because building this planter is a no-till planter. It's going to be a very up-to-date, modern type design that has been tested. The design of the 4-inch rows is the only thing that's novel about it. Everything else is equipment or parts and pieces that have been tested and approved. So it's going to work. Yeah. I'm confident it's going to work. It's built specifically for hemp, because you want a space, when you're planting 600,000 to 800 million seeds per acre, to have those hemp plants evenly spaced is important, because when you think about the end product, and if you're going after long fiber, you want each stalk to be the same diameter, if possible. And when you use a drill that just dribbles out the seed, sometimes you have 3 seeds in a bunch, and then you're going to have 3 thin, spindly plants, and then sometimes you have 2 inches of nothing, no seeds, and then the next seed is going to be the size of a Sharpie or bigger. Right. So again, it all starts with the seed. It all starts with putting the seed in the ground to get the consistent end product. I firmly believe, and this totally needs to be proven yet, we can reduce our seeding rates by 30%. Because if you ever heard of people have this, and I know Dr. Stuchoff from NC State has said, the hemp plants will cannibalize themselves if they're too thick. And I'm pretty sure that's true based on what I've seen here in my own farm. I haven't been scientifically counting them and all, but I'll just say that I think we can reduce our seeding rate 30%. That's a guess, but we'll see, because they're precision planted. So these are some of the things.
That's how you kind of like do things. Like you're like a farmer scientist. Like you come up with your hypothesis and then you work towards it and you prove it or disprove it. So I love how you do that.
Yeah, I enjoy that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you want them, like they plant them at 4 inches or 10 centimeters because for fiber, you want a thinner fiber because it won't branch out as much and it has more shading for
weed
weeds.
Control. That's a huge thing. I mean, once you get hemp 6 inches tall, that's 90% of the battle of growing a hemp plant. Getting into the first 6 inches is sometimes can be. Hemp is so fickle with the varieties and everything, and our whole seed system is not up to par yet the way it is like wheat, soybeans, and corn. I mean, it's so rare these days that you get bad corn seed because the industry has those people are gone that aren't able to produce that.
They figured that out.
Exactly.
Right?
And so, but hemp, we're not there yet. Now, I got some pretty good genetics this year that the seed germ and everything was great, but we're learning how to store the hemp seed. You got to keep it chilled, cold, cool until you're ready to plant. Not a hard thing in the spring, but we've seen last year we learned that if you just leave it in the shop for 2 months and it gets hot, even in the shop or storage area, and you go plant like later, like you can still plant now, really, that we lost the germ in 2 months. Our germ really went down. Well, I just germed some this week that I've had here since March, keep the temperature cool, and it's still germing in 90%. So, okay, that's a big lesson I learned last year. Costs a little bit to keep it cool, but I have a cooler here, so no big deal. These are the little things that the industry is learning. We together are learning how to best manage this crop.
Yeah. Well, all right. So let's get back to Raleigh. And so North Carolina and Pennsylvania, in my mind, obviously very different places, but there's a lot in common, right? And I don't know if you can maybe talk about some of those things that North Carolina has in common with Pennsylvania as the hemp industry develops.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is when you look at plant hardiness growth zones, western North Carolina is even colder than southeastern Pennsylvania, in the mountains, that is. But you have the middle part of North Carolina there that's in a way, very similar to us. Now, they start earlier. They start a week or two earlier than us in the spring. Then when you get down to the coast, that's different. The flat, sandier soil, that certainly is different than my Lancaster County here in Pennsylvania. But there is definitely overlap in seasonality, rainfall. I mean, they're going to typically have longer, hotter summers than we will. But there's a lot of similarities, and I think in growing hemp, what's going to work here to a large degree will work there and vice versa, especially with varieties and so forth for whatever you're trying to grow. So the thing that North Carolina has is right now you could say they're way ahead of many states because they're actually starting to build some factories that are going to be doing textiles.
Right.
I'm familiar with Biophil and David Canby's work there. We're looking forward to seeing that, and several other companies in that area. I think they're doing it, and of course in NC State, Dr. Suchoff and his work down there is always been. I've always admired it and always look at his research because it's good stuff. And,
there's good stuff coming out there.
Yeah. So
Lumberton is the town, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll be heading out there on a field trip, I guess, next week.
Yeah.
So that's good. All right, when are you heading down?
Sometime on Tuesday, as early as possible, I guess. And I got to look at the program.
All right. Well, Steve Groff, we'll see you down there in Raleigh next week.
Yes, Eric. Looking forward to seeing you in person and all our hemp friends as well, and getting kind of reacquainted and just see where this industry's at and how we can successfully move forward.
You got it. All right. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
So there you go. Steve Groff, regenerative hemp farmer down there in Holtwood, Pennsylvania. That's the southern part of Lancaster County. All right, so that does it for me. What else should I tell you about? Well, yeah, a couple of things I wanted to bring you up to speed on. So last week I mentioned my flax, which I had harvested on last week's show. It has been redding, sort of field redding, I guess. It's just in the garden plot where I grew it. It's looking pretty slimy and gross, so I think that's an indication that the fermentation process is working. So I'll keep you updated on that. Also, I do more than just hemp stuff. I'm sure you know that, but something we've been working on here at Lancaster Farming lately, it's called the Super Smart Farm Show, and it is a podcast aimed at curious kids who want to know more about farming. So I'm going to play the first episode, maybe the trailer, after the credits on this episode. So once the Hemp Show ends, stick around and you'll hear a little something else that we've been working on. I would love to hear your feedback on it too. You can send an email to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. Again, the show is called Super Smart Farm Show. It's a podcast for kids who are curious about farm stuff, and who isn't curious about farm stuff. And I'll have links to it on the show page. All right, so that's it for me. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor here at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. As you have heard throughout this show and previous shows, I am headed to North Carolina. I'm going to be in Raleigh for a few days next week. I am not sure what's going to happen with the show next week. I might be publishing from down there. I might put together some kind of special episode. I might just skip the week. I don't know. We're going to play it by ear because guess what? That's what I do. I kind of play it by ear. All right. So, I think I'm all talked out now. So thank you for listening. Until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper. This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2025 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded by Eric Herlock, and it was edited and mixed and mastered by Justin Berger. And yeah, that's it.
Do cows really have 4 stomachs?
Can flowers move?
Why do farms smell in the spring? Are raspberries berries?
Did chocolate milk come from brown
What's the difference
cows?
Why
between
do sheep
straw and
need
hay?
haircuts?
Why
do
is
some
there
birds
corn
eat
and
Why do
apples?
roosters go
Why do so
do
many
goats
colors
really
of
eat
apples?
everything?
What's
What's up with all those
words for poop on the farm?
Whoa. One at a time. Sounds like you guys have a lot of questions about farms. Well, guess what? Here at the Super Smart Farm Show, we've got the answers. Join us each week as we dive into topics every little farmer wants to know about. We'll explore what it's like to take care of animals like cows and sheep and pigs and chickens, even bees. We'll climb up into the tractors and harvesters and other farm machinery you see out there in the fields. And we'll talk about what makes them go and what farmers did before they even existed. We'll dig into what it takes to grow the crops that ultimately make it to the store and then onto your plate. How do they make that journey? We'll get into that too. And parents, you'll be happy to know this isn't our first rodeo. Super Smart Farm Show is produced by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, a trusted name in agricultural journalism since 1955. You know, back when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. All right, just kidding about the dinosaurs. But when it comes to knowing farming, we're no joke. We're ready to take on your kids' farming-related questions, and we've got decades of agricultural experience to back us up. So ask away, friends, because here at the Super Smart Farm Show, we know it's fun to ask questions and wonder about the world we live in. And we love learning about how farmers feed and take care of us. You can find Super Smart Farm Show starting July 22nd on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or you can listen at lancasterfarming.com. It's the Super Smart Farm Show.